next question is, and this has been a hot topic, at least on the defensive side of things these last few months, is defensive coaches going back and forth. What is the best way to play? I call it a cluster, a three-man bunch. So when you get into your three-man bunch cluster sets, what do you not want to see?
There's nothing. I think it's tough on kids when you press the point. And this kind of remember Dick Maloney right here. This makes me think of him. Press the point, and then he kind of just hangs out. Because most kids will redirect and kind of ride the hip for a little bit, and then he's probably the flat player more than likely. But other than that, that's a real physical. We had it at CNU last year. We had a kid who played a physical point, and I'm a big fan of running spacing. Obviously, I'm a big fan of bubble because the spacing protects the bubble, just like our run adjustments protect the run. Any vertical, your curl seam flat out of bunch sets, any of your stick, your snag, your spot, all that stuff, because you're just trying to the point press guy. He's vacating his area because he's going to be probably the flat defender. So in an IO system, like what most people are going to do when you're in a bunch set, I know I'm just going to shoot that little hole right in behind him with one of the three people. And if he's still, trying to bang my point guy, sure, great. I'll have number 3 run the hitch, number 1 run the vertical, and have 2 run the flat as in a stick concept. And I know that opening is going to be there because we're going to be reading the mic anyways. So, but no, that is a great conversation. A lot of people want to play, zone drop it and kind of just let it all unravel, and that's great. But then I'm just going to throw a bubble, But if you press the point, it scares me off the bubble. So now I need to find that void where that linebacker is supposed to be. So it's a good chess match. So it's a good conversation.
You don't have to give me everything that you guys do or something, the best thing you've done. You don't have to give me that. But what is one thing that you'll look at when you're watching another team's?
Going to bring a cat from their own sideline, stuff like that. How does are you dictating hashes? You're a guy that likes your hash. What's the defensive coordinator's personality? With the Nick Davis personality, it's kind of just he lets it fly and calls what he calls, and that's just the end of it. He's going to game plan you, scheme you. So I've got that. But a new one that I really like to see is, what do you do after sudden change? Are you a guy, Austin Swinson just threw a pick. Is Nick Davis going to come out there and say, all right, we got to get the ball back here. We got to get the ball. So I'm going to bring 6. I'm going to play or send 1 and drop 9. What's his personality after a sudden change? Because then I can dictate, all right, this guy's always brought pressure after sudden change. So let's either A, motion and run a 7-man pass pro shot because he's putting people on islands, or let's try and do something with some window dress and get out and around it. And I think that's something that people take for granted because they always assume, oh, it's sudden change. They're going to try and be cautious and play ball. But if you actually go back and look at it, 40% of the time these dudes are bringing pressure because they're pissed off. So that's a good one to take a look at.
My next question is, how do you approach matchups in the run and the pass game? Like, are you a guy that wants, or the places you've been, are those places that have wanted to get your dude on a bad player as much as possible? Or are you let's line up, let's run our plays, and let's exploit them that way because we understand their tendencies?
I mean, it goes hand in hand. You're definitely going to have, we chart touches. That's a big thing for us. So you got to get, your boy dog the ball when he needs to get the ball, and you're going to have those. But to me, you can't live in that world because, like it happened to us last year, we were playing North Central, second play of the game. Our boy took it 70 yards for a touchdown, fastest kid on the field, and then 4 plays later, he's out of the game, doesn't play for 4 weeks. So you'll have that happen to you. So I definitely think you have to have a good mix of both. The big thing is we want to have our boy dog always to the boundary because we want you guys to play 2 over 1 and have a 2 high safety shell, and then that's going to protect our run game as much as possible. So for teams that, we're an RPO team, but, we're going to run 2 to 3 runs. We're going to We want to protect the run game. We want to run it. We want to run for 300 yards a game. But we can't do that unless we have a vertical threat. We want to make you play on all three fields, do 53 and a third, and do a lot of window dressing. The big thing, I guess, going back to the other one, is what fits do the linebackers have? Who's the C gap and D gap player? If you can find who the C gap, D gap player is on every play, then you can really, really manipulate the defense with motions, FIB, and stuff like that.
My next question is, and this has been a hot topic during the whole coronavirus, is cover 3 defense. All right. Ohio State came out with the article that they played a ton of spot drop cover 3, which is awesome when you have one of the best pass rushing guys in the whole entire country and you're putting factories of first-round defensive ends out year after year. I think that's really easy to play spot drop cover 3. So what, as an offensive guy, would you rather see a spot drop cover 3 or a matchup zone cover 3 where they're matching people?
I mean, that's a tough one because you think about it, it goes hand in hand. Spot drop because as an offense, well, I'm just going to, I can run shallow mesh and stuff like that because I know if he's not going to bang number one underneath and we're just going to, I think you're opening yourself up for a dink and dunk type mentality unless you have both off the edge, but you're definitely setting yourself up for that. The match man coming across the board. Marlon O'Neal, I always thought, he always did a great job with that. It's easier for me to teach from that aspect because I know, hey, this guy is going to match you. This is how you're going to rebuttal. If we're running all over, he's going to try and bang you at about 7. If he opens the gate, cut underneath. If he doesn't, throw by and get vertical. So the teaching aspect goes into it so much easier for match than it does for man drop. But I just, to me, that's not really relevant too much. It's just here's your handbook for if they're spot dropping. These are the plays that are going to work really well because they're not matching you. And if they're matching you, here's the handbook for the plays that are going to work really well for that. And I think as an offensive guy and people who watch us, definitely have your books ready. Like in the summer, if you're playing a 3-down team, and they're 4 eyes, 0 4 eyes, these are the runs you can run against them. And these are the adjustments off of that. So when it gets to that game, you're not like, oh crap, what we run against this is what we run against a quarters-based team, a 2-man team, a cover 1 team, just so it makes things so much easier and simpler for you to just relate to the kids. You've already got your knowledge, you got your brain turning already, and so there you go.
Here's another defensive trend that's been talked about in the last few weeks and months. And I just want to get your thoughts on it. How hard is it as a quarterback, as a wide receiver? A lot of teams are getting in these situations where their DBs are exchanging roles. So, people have done it for years where they play a cover 2 in the corners, the deep half guy, and invert. But I'm starting to see a lot more where people play cover 1 and the high hole guy comes down and the nickel. They're exchanging roles. So how tough is that when you see DBs exchanging roles, either from a high-low aspect, exchanging roles, whether it be a zone or a man concept? And you've kind of touched on it earlier, but, how hard do you think that's going to be if that becomes the trend here in 2020?
Well, I think it's that, it goes back to what type of war are you fighting? Old Nick Davis quote. If you're living in a read world for the quarterback, then it could be tough, especially if you're exotic with it. That's a big thing. And you stay true to it. Like, is the defense really going to stay true? Just like a defense will say, were they really going to play the whole game in FIB? Well, no one's done it yet, but so they're right. But are you really going to be that exotic with who's going to be the one high, who's going to be, you're playing 3 cloud, 3 buzz, whatever, however you want to disguise it. Run game more than it does with the pass game because like I said, where are the fits, who are the gapped out defense, where are they fitting, how can you make hard fits for them with the split zone, with the Y, how the teams are going to set their 3 technique, the linebackers, all that, who's cross reading the Y as Salisbury did all the time, did a great job with it. So my thing is just you're going to live in that world, and if they do, great, then we're just going to adjust and go from there.
All right, last and final question, and this comes from a lot of the fans that listen to the show, watch the show, is and it doesn't have to be anything you guys are going to do, but everybody's been on Zoom clinics. I know I've seen you. You've been on Pitt's clinics. You've talked to different people, and don't throw Pitt under the bus, obviously. But what new shining things are defensive coordinators going to have to prepare for in 2020? Just give us a few.
Ooh, I definitely think we're changing the trend in college football, and it might not be here, but I've definitely seen a lot of the people talk about, being a 12 personnel team and putting 2 tight ends in there and running the ball and using kind of like what the Rams does with their receivers. They put them on the backside and they cut off the backside C gap, and you got to be prepared for that. And I definitely see that's going to be, pretty neat. And I agree with that. Our offensive line coach and I love 12 personnel and wish we could, we're athletic enough to stay in it. And then I also think a lot of people have done 4x1. I feel like everything I've been empty 4x1 has been huge. And we do and I like 4x1 empty. I like, it's great. And motioning to it, like, we go 2 Zoom sessions a week, and I feel like at least one of those, somebody's 40 minutes spent on 4x1 empty. And 4x1 empty FIB, there was an offensive coordinator who talked about it that I really liked. He's like, you got your 1 high beater, you got all your beaters, you got your pressure beaters. And I'm just like, no, it was pretty good. And I brought it to our staff and to our receivers coach. And he's like, yeah, that's pretty neat. I like that. And so I think those will be the new sexy things. Obviously the speed option was sexy there for a while, and it's been sexy for the past 60 years because I ran that all the time in college. So I think that's always going to keep creeping more and more back into it, the triple option. And I think Brad Glenn at Georgia State does a really good job with that when he was at Western Carolina. Orbit motion with all those guys running the triple. I know Nick Davis still hadn't figured out the triple option, so if he can't figure it out, not many people can.
You got a guy for the quarterback, a guy for the dive, and a guy for a pitch. That's all you need.
Yeah, that's simple. Yeah, of course. 2 2s, 2 4s, 2 6, 2 8.
Defensive guys, sounds like you're going to have a lot of fun defending I would call it 1x4 empty formations there to the boundary, so that's no fun. I appreciate you coming on, Coach Headley. Do you have anything else for the people?
Oh, gosh. Just enjoy your time now. We're back, baby. We're back in the saddle again. It's our staff. We talked the other day. We're ready to rock. Be ready. Have fun and enjoy it. Thank you for having me, Nick. It's been a blessing. I think what you're doing is great. You're having people, in our profession, you got to meet people. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people take for granted is, not meeting enough people, being yourself. Your branding is everything, Nick. We talked about that all the time at Rose. How are you building your brand? How are you implementing it into the culture of what we live in today? And I think that what you're doing is great, and I appreciate it. And the people that are watching, just try and find something you're good at and be good at it. Be better than everyone else. And you have someone that is close to you that will tell you when you're not doing that. I think that's a big thing. We've talked about the past couple of weeks is make sure you have somebody in your inner circle who will tell you that, hey, dude, this sucks, or, you're not doing this right. And to be blunt with you, because, you learn from your mistakes, you learn from people telling you what you're not good at, and, put your ego away and take it for what it's worth and just try and grow on as much as possible, especially now since we're just chilling and, doing Zoom sessions. So